Howdy, Chem 1 students. This is going to be Unit 2 notes, and we're going to talk about problem solving in this unit, which also is going to require us to learn how to convert units from one to another. There's a three-step problem solving approach that we use in chemistry, and the first step when we're looking at a problem is going to be to analyze that problem. This may mean annotating, underlining, circling, highlighting important information, and perhaps identifying a formula that we're going to use. So this is how we're going to determine what to do. Step 2 is to actually calculate. Once we have the formula or know how to solve it, we have to calculate it. To do this, we may need a calculator. It's going to list perhaps some measurements in the problem. And in this case, you may have to go back and refresh on the rules for sig figs. These will come into play. Rule number 3, you're going to evaluate. Does the answer make sense? Is what you calculated even reasonable? Did you use correct units, which we'll check in a second, and significant digits? So this video is going to look at one example, and we're going to walk through the problem solving method so that you can be successful while solving problems in chemistry. Here is the question. What is the mass in grams of a piece of lead that has a volume of 19.84 centimeters cubed? Okay, so step 1, analyze. List the knowns and unknowns. The problem explicitly says that the volume is 19.84 centimeters cubed, which is another term for milliliters. The density of lead is actually going to be given to you. It wasn't in the problem, but this is probably from a reference table. The density of lead is known to be 11.4 grams per centimeters cubed. The question says, what is the mass? So that's why I put a question mark here. Because I have volume, density, and mass, those are my three variables, I'm probably going to be using the formula for density. Step 2, we're going to have to calculate, solve for the unknown. To do that, we may have to rearrange our equation. So I'm going to throw this triangle up. Maybe jot it down if you need it. Mass goes on top, M is for mountain, goes on top, D and V, density and volume, go on bottom. So if I'm solving for mass, I'm going to cover it up. And when I do that, I'm left with density times volume, which is my equation. Step 3, or excuse me, still on step 2, we're going to go ahead and calculate this guy, and let's look at units and sig figs when we do that. So when I multiply the density, 11.4 grams per centimeters, by the volume, 19.84 centimeters cubed, we get an answer of 226.176. So if I use my sig fig rules from Unit 1, I've got 4 sig figs in this measurement. And then in this one, I've got 3 sig figs. So when I am rounding, I'm going to use this measurement right here. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3. The 1 does not round the 6, so I'm left with 226 grams. Now, a word on units. I am multiplying grams over centimeters cubed by centimeters cubed. And when I do that, what we're going to learn this unit is that they cancel out top and bottom, kind of like a fraction. And what I'm left with is grams, which is why you see grams as the mass. Step 3, let's evaluate. Does the result make sense? Well, if we're looking at units, yes, mass should be in grams or some sort of unit for weight. And if you don't know about volume, the volume we have is about the size of an eraser, 19.84 centimeters cubed. Does it make sense that the mass is 226 grams? Well, yes, it does. If you're familiar with volume, it does make sense. That sounds reasonable. If you got like 5 million, that does not sound reasonable, and we may need to evaluate something else. That is all for this video. Next will be conversion of units and dimensional analysis.